let's kick it off. Talking about quarterbacks, why don't you hit us with your quarterback rebuilding trade target?
Yeah, if I had told you just a couple months ago that this would be a trade target for your rebuilding team, you would have been confused because who I want to bring up is Caleb Williams, this year's first overall pick. But unfortunately, in a lot of our minds, has fallen behind some of the other rookie quarterbacks, like Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Drake May. All three of those rookie quarterbacks have been performing better than Caleb Williams and the Bears. I do say that because I don't think all of that is on Caleb Williams, as we saw by the fact that they did fire their offensive coordinator last week, Shane Waldron. They brought in Thomas Brown, and Caleb Williams threw for the most yards that he's thrown for since week 5. Now it's only 231. But he also had his second best completion percentage of his young career with a 74.2% completion rate. The screens were better. Everything was just better with that Bears offense. They really should have won the game. So I have some hope for this Bears offense now that they moved on from Shane Waldron. Unfortunately, that's not the final piece of the puzzle to unlock Caleb Williams. They need to move on from head coach Matt Eberflus. I would expect that to happen this offseason. I'm assuming that he's playing for his job right now if he can pull something out of this season. But most likely it's not going to happen. So I think we'll probably be looking at a new coach next year for Caleb Williams, which is not ideal for his development, but I do still believe in him as enough as a prospect and as a player that he can overcome that. Right now on this season, he's thrown for 2,016 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Like I said, the stats have not been that great. He's quarterback 22, but I still think that this is a pretty good situation long term. They are invested in Caleb Williams. They own the last year with these coaches. It's always tough when a rookie quarterback comes in and then year 3 is when there's a whole coaching turnover. But I think he can kind of come back from a coaching turnover after his rookie year. Maybe this is a little bit of a Trevor Lawrence vibe where, hey, rookie year just was not meant to happen. And then we can move on with our lives and see some better things, because I did see some better things this week against the blitz. Caleb Williams was 8 for 10. For 87 yards. That's an improvement for him. I think we're going to see better things from Caleb Williams coming down the road. And one of the reasons I put him on here, not just because of his talent and the potential that we believe in him, but we have a young stud quarterback who we value pretty highly. He's still quarterback 13 on Keep Trade Cut right now, and he is accessible via trade. So, Mike, here are a couple trades that I sourced for Caleb Williams over the last couple of days. Okay. Anthony Richardson in a second-round pick for Caleb Williams.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that as well. Anthony Richardson, his value has returned. So with my 1 share, I'm looking to move on in the next couple weeks. Next trade I got, Trevor Lawrence in a first-round pick for Caleb and a second-round pick. Thoughts on that?
Pretty fair.
I would think so.
The good thing is, if you're rebuilding, Caleb's going to get you some points right now too. Trevor Lawrence isn't going to give you anything. It just says he's out, but I believe he should be out for the rest of the year, correct?
It's still a little up in the air.
Yeah.
I'm expecting, with how the Jaguars are trending, with the fact that I think Doug Peterson, I'm actually really surprised he wasn't fired before the podcast.
Same.
I thought that was happening, this morning after Monday Night Football, but we're still waiting on that, I guess. So I still kind of have these guys in a similar tier, but hey, Caleb, he's a good bit younger at the moment still. Trevor Lawrence still young himself, but I'm okay with this trade. And then the last one, Travis Kelce and J.J. McCarthy for Caleb Williams and Cole Kmet.
Yeah, you're moving on from an aging tight end. You have a quarterback that hasn't done anything this year at all, except be on IR. And you're getting younger at quarterback. Well, not younger, same age, but a player that we thought had a higher ceiling, J.J. McCarthy. And you're getting younger at the tight end position as well, and a nice stack, Chicago Bears stack there too. So I kind of like this one a little bit.
Yeah. So I know this is the time, if you need a quarterback to build around, you didn't get a chance at Caleb Williams in the draft this year, this is your second chance.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's a great one right there. Let's move on. I'm going to talk about the running back position. Let's talk about Cleveland Browns running back Jerome Ford. On Keep Trade Cut, he's player 219. He's running back 57 on there as well. But on the season, he's running back 41. Here's the deal. Nick Chubb set to be a free agent after the season, while Jerome Ford is still under contract for the next year. He's averaging 9 fantasy points per game. But in week 1, however, Nate, he was running back 9, 18.9 fantasy points. Now, look, a lot of things have happened. Deshaun Watson did not look good. Jameis Winston, sorry, not Jameson Williams. He's looked good, but Jerome Ford kind of lost his starting job to Nick Chubb. Well, he did lose his starting job to Nick Chubb because it's Nick Chubb. Of course, Jerome Ford's going to lose his starting job to him. So he's only had one touchdown in the season. That was in week 1, where he was running back 9. The offense just looked really stagnant with Deshaun Watson. And then, like I said, Nick Chubb returned. So, if Deshaun Watson can't go in week 1 next year, I still expect Jerome Ford to be viable regardless of the quarterback. Granted that he's handed the starting running back position. Now they'll likely draft somebody, and I'm not saying that it's going to be a high pick. The Browns have a lot of work to do. It's going to be interesting to see what they do there. And he's a pretty decent receiver as well. And he's got a career 6.7 yak rec, but an ADOT of only 0.1. So he makes things happen after the catch. We like to see that on the season. 52 carries, 269 yards, that one touchdown. 21 catches, 89 yards, no touchdowns there. Against Saints, 5 carries for 10 yards, 4 catches for 29 yards. But Nate, what does it cost to get him? Let's see if it's worth making him part of our rebuild here. Andre Yoshivas.
Yeah, honestly, I can go either way here because I think that Andre Yoshivas is a little bit of a buy.
Okay.
Because we have T. Higgins moving on. And Yoshivas has been playing that position while T. Higgins has been out. The production has not been quite to the level where I'm like really excited about it, but I do think that Yoshivas is a little bit of a sleeper going into next year.
You don't think it would be Jermaine Burton? Maybe he makes a leap in his second year?
Could be, but Yoshivas is the guy who's out there already. He made a little bit of an impact his rookie year last year, caught like a touchdown or two. So, he's got a knack for the end zone. He's caught a couple touchdowns this year as well. So.
Okay. I got another one here. Derrick Henry for Jerome Ford and a 25 first.
Yeah, I think if you're a rebuilding team, I'm okay with this. I honestly think you can get more for Derrick Henry right now.
I agree.
For a contending team. I think you could get, because I kind of place Jerome Ford as like around a 3rd round pick valuation wise. I think you can get at least like a 1st and a 2nd value for Derrick Henry right now. So maybe it's a 1st, Ford and a 3rd round pick on top of it, or another throw-in player. I think you can ask for a little bit more in this situation.
Yeah, I agree. And one last one, Rico Dowdle and a 25 fifth for Jerome Ford and a 25 third.
Yeah, this feels fair to me. Rico about the value of a 3rd as well, and Ford. I mean, you're doing better than a 5th, so I'm good with this.
Okay. Perfect. Let's move on to the wide receiver position. Nate, who do you have for us? So this is going to be a shocker for everybody.
All right. Well, he ain't no Darnell Mooney, but Christian Kirk is the guy I wanted to bring up as a rebuilding buy. And Mike, we talked about it last year. You talked about Adam Thielen as a rebuilding buy, and Christian Kirk is not quite as old as Adam Thielen. He is still on the right side of 30, the side of 30 I'm on, not your side. But Christian Kirk.
Thanks, pal.
The IR stint makes him cheaper, and we talk about this all the time, is that when a player goes on IR, the time to buy them is not that week, not the second week. It's you give it 4, 5, 6 weeks until everyone forgets about the player. They've been sitting on IR for a couple of weeks. That's when you go after those players. So Christian Kirk, only 28 years old right now. He turned 28 just a couple days ago, so he's going to be 28 to start next season. He's attached to Trevor Lawrence, who I still like long-term, and I know that Brian Thomas Jr. is there, but both of them can coexist. I'm not too worried about that. And looking at Christian Kirk, he averaged 8.9 points per game before his injury. Obviously not great, but that was the same as Rome Odunze, Brandon Ayuk, just a little bit more than Michael Pittman through the first 8 weeks of the season. While it was a little disappointing, the Jaguars' offense as a whole was disappointing. I'm hoping for a little revitalization next year. It might be Ben Johnson who's the head coach there, and we've seen his offense put up some big numbers, especially just this past weekend. So what he did this season was 27 catches, 379 yards, and a touchdown, good for 14 yards per catch before he got hurt. And through week 8, the week that he got hurt, he was 26th in the NFL in targets. So this is a guy that, even though the numbers weren't quite there, the volume was. And I'm always chasing volume in fantasy football. This guy's going to have volume next year and for a couple more years to move forward. So I'm looking at Christian Kirk, like you said before, Mike, with these little bit older buys as a rebuilding team. Doesn't always mean you need to keep them into the next year. You can buy Christian Kirk right now and flip him for a better return come next season. So, you still help your team out whether or not you keep Christian Kirk or not. So looking at a couple of the valuations here, Rico Dowdle, straight up for Christian Kirk. I'm good with that one.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone will be saying, oh, he's the starting running back in Dallas. Do we really want that?
Not right now. Not with how that Dallas offense looks.
Yeah.
Another one here, Mike Evans for Christian Kirk and a 3rd-round pick. I could go either way. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand you're rebuilding, but if I'm selling Mike Evans, I probably want somebody that's a little bit younger.
What about Christian Kirk and a 2nd-round pick?
I feel better about that then. That 2nd-round pick could end up being a very good wide receiver.
So. I think you could ask for that. Maybe you have to give a 3rd back to the Mike Evans owner, or the guy getting Mike Evans, but I think you can make that work. And then another one here. I like this guy, but if you're a rebuilding team, you don't need him. Zach Ertz for Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay with it. And, you're not contending, so Zach Ertz not going to help you in the long run.
Well, who knows? I mean, who knows how long he'll play. But he has on a 1-year deal. We'll get to that in the next podcast, I think.
Okay, great. Let's talk about another tight end now, and this is New York Giants tight end Theo Johnson, player 207 on Keep Trade Cut, tight end 22 on there, but he is tight end 34 on the season. So this is a guy right here, sounding like Chris Collinsworth. I am a young tight end. What we hope will be a young and up and coming team next year with a new quarterback and maybe a new head coach. I don't know. He's athletic. He's rangy. Was very good at Penn State. And he's a guy who has a potential next year to be a top 15 tight end. He's not going to help you win now. Grab him off a contender's team. He does have a 71.4 contested catch percentage, only a 4.8 yak rec. He does have 4 drops on the season. So he does have some work to do in the offseason, but hey, it's fine. Giants were on a bye week. So for the past 3 games, though, he did have 10 receptions on 16 targets, 123 yards, and a touchdown. Not bad considering Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones. What does it cost to get Theo Johnson, a guy that I like very much in the pre-draft process? We have Michael Pittman Jr. for Theo Johnson and Kendre Miller.
I'm going to take the Michael Pittman side here because I couldn't care less about Kendre Miller at this point, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. How about Jordan Mason?
Yeah, I'm happy to move up with Jordan Mason for Theo. I like Theo Johnson a good bit. I mean, to be a rookie tight end and just be involved is an accomplishment.
Yeah. Also,
he's been getting 80+% snaps since week 1, which is impressive.
And Jordan Mason, thank you for everything you've done for us fantasy players this year, but your time is pretty much over at this point. Here's one that's a little interesting. Sam Laporta for Theo Johnson, a 25 third and a 26 first.
I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
I get it, but I don't love it either.
Yeah. If it was Johnson 25, that 26 first should be a 25 first.
Yeah.
I just feel like you need more if you're moving Sam Laporta. We know that he's like a top 5 tight end moving forward for years to come. So
I want more immediate kickback if I'm moving a guy like Sam Laporta. So I completely agree with that as well. Another shocker for Nate.
Another shocker. You know what? Maybe I'm just into the 2025 Jaguars offense.
You must be.
I must be, because I'm talking about Tank Bigsby here. My guy who, interestingly enough, I didn't really talk too much about him this year. Even when he took off, I believe I talked about him once in a podcast, but I didn't want to jinx it, so I didn't talk about him too much. But I think this is actually a really good opportunity to talk about Tank Bigsby because he did enough to show us that he's legit this year, I think. He had those big games. I'm going to give you the stats in just a moment, but he showed us enough where we are all interested in Tank Bigsby. All right. But the Jaguars offense is so bad. ETN is still there that if you're a contending team, you don't need to hold on to Tank Bigsby. Yeah. He's not going to make or break, if you're winning your league or not right now, probably. So he's accessible to even get from contending teams. And I think that's important in this situation because usually it's hard to buy running backs for a rebuilding team because contenders want running backs. So you got to find someone who's got some potential, has shown us a little bit, but also isn't necessarily needed this season. And I think Tank Bigsby does a good job of finding that little niche there. So far in this season, 95 rushes, 519 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Only 3 catches for 36 yards. The Jaguars have hardly used him at all in the receiving game, but he is averaging 5.5 yards per carry. He currently leads all running backs in yards after contact per attempt with 4.33. And in second place is Tyler Algier right now with 3.88. Tank Bigsby is 11% better than the second place in yards after contact per attempt. No other running back is over 4 yards, and he's at 4.33. It is really, really impressive what Bigsby's been able to do after contact. And if you look at who is at the top of the league in yards after contact, I mean, yeah, you got Tyler Algier up there, but you got a lot of really, really good players because these are players who can make and create yards on their own. They don't need the offensive line to make the holes for them. They don't just take what is given to them. They take more than what's given to them. And Tank Bigsby has been able to do that this year. It's really impressive. And then with yards per attempt, he's averaging 5.5 right now. There's only 3 players above him that are qualified with enough carries. And those are Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Derrick Henry. It's a pretty good list to be on. So I'm excited about Tank Bigsby in his future. Travis Etienne also in the last year of his rookie deal. So we'll see what happens going into this offseason. But value-wise, here's some trades. I saw all straight-up swaps for Tank Bigsby just in the past couple of days. Christian Watson, Juwan Jennings, Hunter Henry, Kirk Cousins. This is not an expensive running back to go get.
No, and, Christian Watson, Juwan Jennings, inconsistent. Same with Hunter Henry. And, Kirk Cousins, probably like to get a little bit more, but I get it. Also, I do have bad news. Travis Etienne is under contract for 2025, so they must have picked that up.
But that's his last year, so
yeah. I mean, they could save some money. No, not really.
Yeah, the 5th-year options, I think it's all guaranteed. So if they were to move on from him, it'd have to be a trade.
Yeah.
Which, new coaching staff coming in, not a new GM, or is it a new GM? We'll see. But be a whole new regime there. So
yeah, I mean, I think they should let him go somewhere else. You know what I mean? And then just let the Jags start to rebuild. So yeah, but I get these trade valuations here. I don't hate any of them, but like I said, the only one I slightly disagree with, would love to see you get more for Kirk Cousins than Tank Bigsby straight up. But I guess it depends on league format too.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to talk about a wide receiver, and I know Nate's a fan. This is New England Patriots wide receiver Jalen Polk. He's player 174 in Keep Trade Cut, which makes him wide receiver 65 there. But in reality, he's wide receiver 113. Yet he's run 92.4% of his team's routes. And he's gaining trust from future franchise quarterback Drake May. We expect him to be. We also expected Mac Jones to be the franchise quarterback in New England as well, but here we are. Only 2 drops on the season though, Nate. But he does need to be better after the catch. Do you know what his yak rec is?
I can see it on the show sheet. It's not good.
0.2 on an average depth of target of 12.7. So, the plays are there. You just got to separate a little bit better. And only a 27.3% contested catch percentage. He is getting playing time though, just like Andre Yoshivas, we talked about before. So he should improve in his second season. No stats against the Rams at all. I believe he played. I didn't see him as a scratch. Just didn't do anything on the season. Only 11 catches for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gross.
I don't love it.
We're still fans here, though.
We're still fans.
We're priming for the second-year breakout. But what does it cost to get Jalen Polk, Gardner Minshew?
Okay.
Yeah.
For a rebuilding team, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 25 third-round pick.
I'm good with a third-round pick.
Yeah.
Wouldn't pay more than that, but yeah.
And I saw this one here, Juwan Jennings for Polk in a 25 third.
Sure. Yeah.
That is a great rebuilding trade right there, in my opinion. Yeah. Whoever pulled that one off. Juwan Jennings is going to help a contending team more than he's going to help you. So you're moving it for a player you like and a pick on top of it.
You get Polk, and if it doesn't work out for Polk, at least you have a third-round pick you can try again.
Correct. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Nate, let's talk about my favorite position now from you, the tight end. Who do you have?
All right. I said we were going to get to it in another podcast. Well, actually, I meant later in this podcast. Let's talk about Ben Sinnott, the tight end for the Washington Commanders. It's not the first time that we've seen a rookie tight end get stuck behind Zach Ertz.
True.
Remember just a couple of years ago in 2022, Zach Ertz was on the Cardinals and head of Trey McBride, who we all love now and consider a top 5 dynasty tight end. But at that time,
Nate, I have to chime in here. Then that would make this the third time, because don't forget, he was also in Philadelphia when Dallas Goedert was drafted, then Trey McBride, and now this. I'm sorry, but that just means that the guy behind him is going to turn out to be amazing.
Usually does. Yeah, he's a good guy to learn from, apparently.
Yeah.
So we got Trey McBride doing nothing through the first 9 weeks of the season his rookie year. Like, absolutely nothing. I think he had 1 catch, okay? Zach Ertz gets hurt week 10, and from there, Trey McBride has a rookie season, and for the last 6-7 games of the season, 29 catches, 265 yards, and a touchdown. But nothing before Zach Ertz got hurt. Now we have Zach Ertz in Washington. Ben Sinnott has basically done nothing. His seasonal stats are 3 catches, 18 yards. He does have a touchdown, though. But Zach Ertz is only there for 1 year. He is certainly a couple years past 30, so he is 34 at the moment and a free agent after this year. I don't expect him to come back to Washington. They did draft Ben Sinnott day 2 for a reason. I expect that we're going to see a lot of Ben Sinnott next year, just like we saw Trey McBride take off, just like we saw Dallas Goedert take off. I want Jaden Daniels tight end 1 moving forward. He's used Zach Ertz a lot this year, so it shows us he doesn't dislike throwing to the tight end position. He likes throwing to the tight end position. They also don't really have a strong wide receiver 2 there, so we love when tight ends are a top 2 target in their offense. That currently how this offense is set up, a tight end is. So a lot of good things going here. Let's see how the rest of the season goes. I don't know, assuming Zach Ertz is going to be healthy the rest of the season, not sure how much more we're going to see of Ben Sinnott. And if that's how it goes, he'll be a buy all the way through the early offseason until people realize that Zach Ertz is a free agent. So keep an eye on him. You're going to have lots of opportunity, I think, to buy him moving forward because I don't think he's going to move in front of Zach Ertz anytime soon, which is not an indictment on him at all. So how expensive is it to get Ben Sinnott? We paid late seconds for him, mid seconds for him in tight end premium this offseason. What's it look like now? Mike, it's pretty cheap. I saw anywhere from a straight swap with Hunter Henry to getting to trading Hunter Henry and getting a second back, actually.
Oh, I like that.
For Ben Sinnott. So anywhere in between. Also saw Josh Palmer and Troy Franklin together for Ben Sinnott, which is kind of 2 throw-in players for Ben Sinnott. Also saw Tommy Cutlets, and a 3rd-round pick for Ben Sinnott. Also saw both of those things separate as well. A straight-up swap, Tommy DeVito for Ben Sinnott if that team really needs a quarterback, or a 3rd-round pick. You can get Ben Sinnott right now for a 3rd-round pick if that's what you're looking for.
If it was Hunter Henry for even Sinnott in a 3rd, I'd be happy with that, to be honest with you. Especially after seeing the straight-up swap. The Josh Palmer, I think he's going to go somewhere else next year. Be okay. Troy Franklin, I'm not out on him yet. And man, Tommy DeVito, if I can move off him, a career backup for Ben Sinnott. Yeah, I'm okay with
I wouldn't even call Tommy DeVito a career backup yet. He's like a flash in the pan backup for the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah. Let's talk about my quarterback right now. And my rebuilding trade target is Minnesota Vikings quarterback JJ McCarthy. The value is still pretty high on him, though. He's player 58 on Keep Trade Cut Nate and quarterback 18. Insane. Not saying I don't like the guy, but I just feel like that's too high for a guy who has promise, just had a second knee surgery. We got to get real here.
I would like to clarify, thanks to my friend Jeff Mueller on Twitter. But Jeff did some good research into this. Turns out, even though the initial reporting was that it was a second surgery, it was actually not a second surgery. It was much more mundane than that. So he followed up on his report that this is really not that big of a deal. It's pretty cut and dry. It's not a second surgery. That's the big thing. It's not a second surgery. It was like a little cleanup injection or something like that.
To us lay people, if it involved a freaking laser or a scalpel, it was a surgery. But that being said, he's on IR. We think he's going to be the Vikings starting quarterback next year. This is not a Trey Lance situation where came in, got banged up. Brock Purdy came in, did his thing, did have a second knee procedure this past week, Nate. There we go. We'll use that one.
All right, sure.
And Sam Darnold's not under contract, but he's going to look to start somewhere else because we know JJ McCarthy is the future. And look, if he's not ready to go, there's going to be guys that they could have come in and play. Gardner Minshew will be a free agent. Daniel Jones can come in for a few weeks. There's going to be guys out there. Marcus Mariota, someone. Ryan Tannehill still out there, but I think it's over for Ryan Tannehill at this point. So we know JJ McCarthy is the future, and like I said, Jacoby Brissett, another guy too. So really not much to go on. No NFL stats here. This is all just based off of projection vibes, as we like to do. I almost said it, but then I figured I'd let you take it. Again, it's a good rebuilding trade target. You don't need help now. You need it next year. So like I said, no NFL stats, but in college, his career, 482 completions on 713 attempts. That's 67.6% of his passes. It's pretty dang good for 6,226 yards, 49 touchdowns to 11 picks. some rushing yards too. So 161 carries, 632 yards, 10 touchdowns. Now, if you're like, oh, that's not a lot, let's not forget in college, they do take sack yardage away from your rushing total. So most likely it would be more than that. What does it cost? Some of these trades, not a fan of, especially this one, Jared Goff for JJ McCarthy. And that was in a super flex league.
Yeah, you should be getting more at this point because not only is Jared Goff playing, but Jared Goff isn't that old.
Right. I think
And
he's
he just
right
signed
around 30.
he just signed an extension, right, with
Yeah,
Detroit. So
not going anywhere.
I'm taking Jared Goff. Like I don't care about getting younger that much.
And
I need a McCarthy in a first probably right now.
if I'm getting younger and I'm moving off a guy like Jared Goff, I want someone that I really believe in. Like you talked about Caleb Williams, if we're going to him, if we're
Yeah.
going, how can we
Things
turn
like
Jared
that.
Goff into Jaden Daniels, even if you have to add something? I don't like this trade as much as I'm a fan of JJ McCarthy. I can like the player that they're trying to acquire and not like the trade. Both of those things can be true. So for me, we're taking a guy who, and I don't have it up in front of me, so I don't know where he is right now, but I'm targeting CJ Stroud. I'm targeting Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, guys like that, guys that are young that I believe in. Not a guy who has done nothing yet in the NFL. Joe Mixon for JJ McCarthy, a 25 fourth and a 25 fifth. Joe Mixon having a very good year. Bengals sure could use a running back, but what do you think about this?
Hey, they got Chase Brown. We'll get to that.
They
We'll
do.
get to Chase.
They do.
I'm good with this trade. I would do Mixon for McCarthy straight up. I'm happy to take the 4th and 5th on top.
Yeah, exactly. And for the record, Jared Goff is currently quarterback 10 on the season. So low end quarterback 1, but quarterback 1 nonetheless. And then the last time I saw multiple trades for a 25 second round pick.
Yep, I'm happy with that. And real quick, going back to your point about Jared Goff being the quarterback 10, let's be honest with JJ McCarthy. I love JJ McCarthy. You like JJ McCarthy, but we are projecting him to probably be a low end quarterback 1. He doesn't have, the rushing ability, or as far as I can tell, the playmaking ability to be a top 5 quarterback seasonally, year in and year out. So, it's kind of that whole thing, okay, well, you can go get McCarthy, but you're hoping he turns into Goff, basically. You're hoping he gets to Goff levels quicker than it took Goff to get Goff levels. But, you need more if you're going to make that trade.